Welcome to the Kendra Woods Show. I'm Kendra Woods, and this is a space for high achieving women navigating success, self doubt, and the pressure that often lives beneath it. On this show, we explore the hidden patterns that shape how you lead your life, make decisions, and relate to success. Because success isn't just what you build, it's how you lead yourself. And here, we learn to lead ourselves well. Welcome back to the Kendra Woods Show. So today we are continuing the series on the 4 high-functioning self-doubt archetypes. And in this episode, we're talking about the initiator. And I have to say, you all, I am having so much fun sharing these archetypes with you. I have always found it to be so helpful for me to be able to put words to a lot of the things that I'm feeling, right? Like I've noticed in my own journey where there would be certain patterns that I would repeat or that I would get stuck in. And sometimes I would find it hard to put words to the patterns. But once I really started leaning into this and really starting to like play with, okay, what is this pattern called? Like, what would I name this pattern? And what do I think this pattern reminds me of? And I give language to it. It's like I began to have a deeper relationship with the pattern. And it's like it gave me this ability to work with it in a different way. I think that's why I also fell in love with like human design, right? It's because to me, it gives words to energy. And so that's what these episodes are for you. It's for you to have language for patterns that show up in your life, in your business, in how you're leading yourself. And all of these patterns are patterns of high functioning self doubt, right? Because there's many different patterns of this. And so, anyways, I hope that you are enjoying this series as much as I am enjoying recording it for you. So, before we go any further with this episode, I do want to remind you of something very important. Remember, I'm sharing this with you, and these are not labels, these are mirrors. Okay. The point of these archetypes is not for you to put yourself in another box or use this as another reason to be hard on yourself or to judge yourself. The point, again, is to give language to patterns you may be living inside of for a long time. Because once you see the pattern clearly, you can begin to lead yourself differently, right? And the initiator is such a powerful one because on the surface, she can look incredibly ambitious. The initiator, this particular archetype, she has ideas, she has vision, she can move quickly, she can start things, she can feel the fire of possibility before anyone else can even see it. But underneath the fire, there is often a deeper pattern happening. She starts many things, but struggles to stay with them long enough to let them actually become something. And I want to name something here too, because as I was preparing these different archetypes and naming these patterns, I noticed myself in all these patterns. So you may notice that maybe you resonate with just one of these archetypes, or you may notice that you resonate with every single one of them that I share with you. And neither way is good or bad. You may notice these patterns living inside of you and in the way that you show up in many different ways in your life. And the initiator is definitely a pattern that I too resonate with. In my birth chart, in my human design, I have a lot of like initiating energy. I have a lot of fire energy. So there is something about a new beginning for me that just gets me so excited and so giddy. And so I have found myself in the past too, like in this same pattern that I'm going to share with you today, where I've had all these amazing ideas and then I start them and then I stop them. I start them and then I'm on to something else, and just leaving all of these open loops, as I call them. So let's talk about how the initiator shows up. So the initiator is the woman who often feels most alive at the beginning, right? A new offer, a new brand direction, a new content strategy, a new business model, a new plan, a new version of herself. There is energy there. There is excitement there. There's possibility in that space. And for a moment, everything feels super clear. And she thinks, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the thing. I have figured it out. But then something happens. The initial excitement begins to settle. The work becomes more repetitive. You're out of the honeymoon phase, as they say, right? The results are not immediate. Doubt starts to creep in. And then suddenly, the idea that once felt so aligned now starts to feel questionable. And she starts wondering, maybe this isn't the right offer. Maybe I need to change my messaging. Maybe I should pivot. Maybe this isn't what people want. Maybe I'm behind. Maybe I need to start over again. And before she can even give the new idea, enough time to gain traction, she's already moving on to the next idea. And this is not because she's flaky, not because she's undisciplined, not because she lacks vision, but because staying with something long enough to let it compound requires a level of self-trust that she may not have fully built yet. So let that land. Because at this stage of my journey, I'm looking back and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it was for me. Like, I wasn't at that level where I trusted myself enough to just keep going and going and going and going and going with that one thing to let it compound. In theory, it sounded great. I would hear coaches and my mentors talk about, just letting your actions compound. And intellectually, I got it. But in my body, it was so uncomfortable once the honeymoon phase or the excitement phase kind of wore off. It got really uncomfortable. So let me give you some more examples so we can let this sink in some more. So the initiator may launch an offer, talk about it for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, not get the response that she hoped for, and immediately then decide that the offer must be wrong. So instead of continuing to refine the message, instead of continuing to deepen the conversation and build belief around the transformation, she starts creating a completely new offer. And listen, I am talking to you about this through the lens of business, obviously, because I am an online business owner. And so I'm speaking about this through the lens of business. But if you're not an online business owner, if you're not a business owner, and maybe you have a career in the corporate space or whatever, I want you to think about maybe projects that you have started, or maybe there's something in your personal life, like a new transformation you wanted to do in your life. You wanted to lose weight, wanted to become more healthy, or maybe you wanted to, I don't know, read more books or whatever. It's the same thing, right? So here's another example. She commits to a content direction. Okay, maybe this woman says, you know what, I am going to just focus my attention on Instagram and on Facebook, and that's it, instead of trying to share all over the place. So she shares a few posts on just those two platforms. Maybe she records a few reels and does some stories. And she's like showing up for a week, maybe 2 weeks. But then all of a sudden, when engagement feels low or when no one's like engaging with her, she starts questioning everything. She tells herself, this must not be landing with people. But instead of staying with the message long enough for people to recognize her for it, what happens? She shifts again. And this is the part that I want you to really hear. Sometimes the thing that you keep changing is not actually the thing that needs to change. Sometimes the deeper work is learning how to stay. So now, because the cost of the initiator pattern is not just unfinished projects, the deeper cost is that she never gets to experience the power of her own consistency. She never gets to see what could happen if she allowed her ideas to mature, if she allowed herself to just keep moving, to keep follow through. She never gets to feel the confidence that comes from following through. She keeps resetting before momentum has had a chance to build. And every time she starts over, she may think that she is solving the problem. Something that I experienced back in 2023, a friend of mine, a colleague of mine was starting to do, she put a post out on Instagram and she said, hey, everyone, I'm starting the 75 Hard Challenge and I want to create an accountability group. And if you'd like to be a part of it, just reach out to me. And I'd been hearing about this whole 75 Hard, challenge, and I kept putting it off. I was like, oh, it's not for me, blah, blah, blah. But then something clicked in me at the beginning of 2023, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this because, and here's the reason why, because I got into a place where I was like, okay, I want to be a woman who follows through more consistently. I want to be the kind of woman that stays. And what better way to do this and to do this challenge and to do it with people? I was already active, already very much athletic. So I'm like, okay, this would be a great thing to do. And so I did that challenge and it taught me so much about staying and following through when it was uncomfortable, when it was inconvenient, when I could have easily just said, you know what, nope, I'm not doing this. Like, more than anything, yeah, like I lost some weight and things like that. But more than anything, I think what got me most excited was I could begin to see myself transforming as a woman. I was getting excited about like who I was becoming as a woman as I kept showing up and being consistent. And there was just something so fulfilling about that that nothing outside of me could have given me. And I would love for every woman to be able to feel that feeling inside, you know, to have that experience of feeling the confidence that comes when you follow through, or having that experience of, you know, what could actually happen or who you could transform into if you allowed your ideas to mature, if you allowed yourself to just keep like sharing and showing up and sharing your message and doing the work. There's so much power within you that you tap into and you give yourself permission to follow through. Okay, but let's keep going. Um, so here's what happens. Every time that you start over, you may think that you're solving the problem, but often what's actually happening is you're reinforcing the belief that you cannot trust yourself to stay. That is the hidden cost. It is not just that the offer changes. It is not just that the plan changes. It is not just that the strategy changes. It is that you start to lose evidence that you are a woman who can stay with yourself. And if you are an ambitious, high achieving woman, that can feel incredibly frustrating and very confronting because you know you're capable of more. You know you're here to build something meaningful. You know that your work matters. You know there is a bigger vision inside of you. But the pattern of constantly starting over can keep you from actually experiencing the depth, the stability, and the success that you desire. And so here's the deeper belief that shows up with the initiator pattern. The initiator often believes, maybe the real problem is the idea. But the deeper truth is this: the problem is not always the idea. The problem is often the lack of trust in staying with the idea long enough for it to become clear, refined, recognizable, and profitable. Because success does not only come from initiation, it comes from stabilization, it comes from devotion, it comes from repetition. It comes from allowing your body, your mind, your nervous system, and your leadership to stay with something even after the first rush of excitement has passed. And that can be confronting, right? Because starting can feel so powerful, but sustaining, it asks something different of you. Sustaining asks you to lead yourself when the dopamine wears off. It asks you to stay when the results are still forming. It asks you to continue when your mind wants certainty. It asks you to become the woman who does not need to reinvent herself every time discomfort shows up. So, the shift for the initiator is not to stop having ideas. Okay. Please hear me on this. Your ideas are not the problem. Your ability to see possibility is an absolute gift. Your capacity to move, create, launch, and begin is powerful. The shift is learning how to lead that energy. The shift is moving from impulsive initiation to anchored initiation, from starting as a way to escape doubt to starting from alignment and staying from self trust. Because the initiator does not need less vision, she needs more internal stability. She needs the ability to pause before she pivots. She needs the ability to ask, am I changing this because it is truly misaligned? Or am I changing this because I am uncomfortable waiting? That question right there can change everything. And I wanted to share something with you from my own journey, real quick, about this moment here of asking yourself this question. Because when I first started my business, I worked with a coach who taught the group and taught all of us how to like launch our business online, what we needed. She coached us through how to create our first offer. She coached us through how to create our first like freebie, like um, opt-in piece. And so I created my very first opt-in. This was back in 2009, 2010, somewhere in there. And I created this opt-in called, what was it called? Oh, my morning manifestation guidebook. And it literally was just walking people through my morning manifestation routine that I was using to support myself as I was navigating corporate and being stressed in corporate and anxious about the things happening in corporate and really wanting to like branch out on my own. And so I created this guidebook and just shared everything that I shared my morning routine. I gave like resources of the things that I was using, books I was reading, all the things. So, anyways, I put it out there and I put it out on my social platforms. And then because I was a part of this woman's mastermind, she also promoted our free opt-ins to her audience as well, right? So I grew an email list of like 1,000 women in no time. And I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Right. And I was getting such amazing feedback about the opt in. Like people were loving it. Like they were responding, to my emails and they were like sending me emails. And like it felt amazing. Well, after the initial excitement wore off and like, I had been, promoting the opt in for a few weeks and, some of the excitement around it had died down. I was like, oh no, like what's happening? Like, I started thinking again, like doubt creeped in, right? What's wrong? What am I doing wrong? Maybe I need to talk about it more. Maybe I need to push it more, blah, blah, blah. Like all these thoughts were coming into my mind. And so I just kept going. And so months went by, months went by, months went by. I finished this particular mastermind. I kept, growing my business, kept growing my email list. But then like my email list started to become really stagnant. Like people weren't really engaging as much. And I took that to mean that, oh, this is not working anymore. And so I was like, I came up with all these stories where I was like, okay, well, maybe isn't my audience anymore. Maybe people don't understand what I'm saying. Maybe I need to like, because this opt-in was sent out to her community. Maybe these people are not my ideal client. Like I had all of these stories, you guys. And I made the decision at the time to completely get rid of my email list because I thought it was misaligned. Right. I thought it was misaligned. I'm like, well, her audience isn't my audience. So I had all these excuses as to why I was doing this. And so I completely got rid of my email list that I had spent months building up that was like over 1,000 people. And I got rid of them and I deleted it and I started all over again. And I look back and I'm like, wow, I should not have done that. I should have asked myself this question that I'm sharing with you. I should have asked myself, am I changing this because it is truly misaligned? Or am I changing this because I am uncomfortable waiting? And if I'm being honest, now looking back, I was uncomfortable waiting. I was uncomfortable because things had gotten quiet. I was uncomfortable. And so then doubt crept in, and then doubt was leading. And it was the doubt that was leading that caused me to that led me to make that decision to get rid of my email list. Right. And so, yes, lesson learned for sure. But now it's like, this is why we need to talk about these patterns so that we can recognize them and really pivot ourselves into making sure that we're leading ourselves from a true place of alignment and not from discomfort. Okay, so this question right here can change everything. Asking yourself, am I changing this because it is truly misaligned? Or am I changing this because I am uncomfortable waiting? Right? Again, because sometimes your next level is not asking you to begin again. Sometimes your next level is asking you to remain. It's asking you to refine. It's asking you to deepen, to let your body catch up to the vision, to let people catch up to the message, to let the work become known, to let consistency create the evidence your nervous system has been looking for, to let time do its work. Okay. And I think this is where we also have to speak to what the initiator really wants. Because underneath all the starting, she does not actually want to keep beginning again and again. That's not what she wants. Okay. The initiator archetype, she wants to feel anchored. She wants to feel clear. She wants to trust her decisions. She wants to build something that lasts. She wants to become known for her work. She wants to feel proud of the way that she leads. She wants to stop feeling like every quiet season means that she needs to burn everything down and create something new. She wants the business. She wants the leadership. She wants the money. She wants the visibility, the confidence, and the impact. But the thing is she wants it without feeling like she has to keep abandoning herself to get there. And that is the deeper transformation. It's not just about finishing what you start. It's about becoming the woman who can hold the vision long enough for it to actually become real. That is leadership. That is calm authority. And that is what happens when you stop letting doubt redirect you every time things get quiet, slow, or uncertain. So, if you recognize yourself in the initiator, I want you to consider this. What if the next version of you is not found in the next idea? What if she is found in your ability to stay with the idea that you already chose? What if your power is not in consistently beginning again, but in learning how to build with depth? What if the evidence you're waiting for can only come after you stop resetting the experiment? Because when you're always changing direction, you never get clean data. You never really know what is working because you've not stayed long enough to see. And this is why self leadership matters, because your mind may tell you to pivot. Your fear may tell you to start over. Your impatience may tell you nothing's happening. Your nervous system may interpret stillness as danger. But the woman leading from calm authority knows how to pause. She knows how to check in. She knows how to discern. She knows the difference between true alignment and emotional urgency. She can say, I am allowed to have ideas, but I do not have to chase every idea. I am allowed to refine, and I do not have to abandon. I'm allowed to feel doubt, but I don't have to let doubt lead. That is the work. That is the work. So I want to give you a few questions to sit with. I want you to write these down, sit with yourself, with your journal, and just explore these questions. And again, this is not to shame yourself, not to overanalyze yourself, not to judge yourself, but to see yourself more clearly. Okay, so I've got 4 questions here for you. The first question for you to sit with is, where in your business, career, or leadership do you keep starting over before something has had time to gain momentum? The second question is, where are you calling something misaligned when it may actually just feel uncomfortable? Third question, where are you interpreting slow results as a sign to pivot? And the last question, What would it look like to stay with one clear direction long enough to let it compound? The initiator's medicine is not more pressure. It is not forcing herself to be consistent from self criticism. It's not white knuckling things and gripping tighter. It's learning how to become internally steady long enough to stay. And this is a big part of the work that I do inside Lead Like Her, because Lead Like Her is not about doing more. It's not about becoming more productive or like learning the next hack so you can prove yourself harder. It's about becoming the woman who can lead herself from calm authority, the woman who can hold her ambition without turning it into pressure, the woman who can make decisions without constantly second guessing herself, the woman who can stay connected to her vision even when the outcome has not yet arrived yet, the woman who can build success without abandoning herself in the process. So, if this episode is speaking to something inside of you, do not wait. I want you to join the Lead Like Her waitlist. The next round will open for enrollment in the very near future. And if you feel called to explore this work, the waitlist is the best place to start. And joining the waitlist does not mean that you are making the commitment or the decision to join me inside of Lead Like Her once we start. It's simply saying, I'm curious, I'm interested, and I want to be the first to know. I want to learn more, and I want to know what this will look like for me. Okay, that's what this is about. And if you're feeling like maybe you want more private, personalized support, you can also DM me on Instagram and ask about the Lead Like Her intensive. And this is my private mentorship space where we work closely together on your self leadership, your identity, your business, your patterns, and the way that you are holding your next level. Okay. So, as we close out this episode today, I want you to remember this: the initiator archetype. If you recognize yourself in this, the initiator is not broken. She is not inconsistent because she does not care. She is often deeply visionary, deeply gifted, deeply capable, but she is being invited into a new level of leadership, a level where she no longer has to start over every time doubt shows up, a level where she can trust herself long enough to let the work become something, a level where she can stop confusing discomfort with misalignment, a level where she can stay. Because sometimes the next breakthrough is not in the new beginning. Sometimes the next breakthrough is in your ability to stay, in your ability to remain. Okay. So thank you again so much for listening to this episode of the Kendra Woods Show. If this resonated with you, I want you to take a screenshot right now, share it on Instagram, and tag me at the Kendra Woods. I'd love to know. And if you know another ambitious woman who keeps starting over and wondering why she cannot seem to build some momentum, I want you to send this episode to her. Okay? All right. Until next time, I want you to remember to lead yourself well.